Makadini ko. My name is Tarironi Gitare. We are here on ZiFM Stereo. That was Mukumba Hanzinzara Apana. I absolutely love these guys and I've been blasting them all week. They're really just flying the Zimbabwean flag high and showing us how creative economy works when it comes to music. We are here again on Business Unusual talking about the creative economy, which you know I'm very, very passionate about. And this is our fourth episode of Creative Economy Conversations here on Business Unusual. And today we're diving into the vibrant world of creativity and innovation as we always do, but particularly exploring how media and marketing and entertainment intertwine to shape our cultural landscape. Tashedza nyanzi yazvo. Sawira Mukuru, we work together and it's exciting. Our guest today brings his extensive experience in leading impactful projects and is uniquely positioned to share insights on the evolution of the creative economy. So whether you're a budding artist, whether you're a business enthusiast, or just simply curious, creative sector, stay tuned as we unravel the opportunities and the challenges within our field. If you want to get in touch with us, the line is open. Our WhatsApp line is 0772 168 045. I'm thrilled to introduce our esteemed guest today. His name is Mr. Keith Kuhudzai. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tari. It's good to be on the show. I'm really excited about this.
So good to have you. Let me just tell the guests who are Indos. I know what you're all about, but let me just share. I'd like to introduce to you Keith Kuhudzai, who's the managing director of K Media Africa, with a deep passion for conceptualizing, leading, and managing innovative projects in media, marketing, events, and entertainment. Keith brings a wealth of experience to the table. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce in Economics and Business Management, equipping him with the skills to navigate the complex landscape in the industry. So under his leadership, K Media Africa proudly serves as the delivery partner for the British Council's Music Connects program, showcasing his commitment to fostering cultural exchange and creative collaboration across the continent. Do it, Keith.
That's me in a nutshell.
I just realized today as I was just going through the guests that have been coming on the show that my social capital is actually quite something,
Wow.
The people I have on speed dial to just talk about some of these issues are really amazing people doing great things. So thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
No, thanks for having me, and it's an honor to be here and share the knowledge that I have and have this conversation and see where it goes. Yeah.
Nice. Talking about social capital, how important is that for you, especially considering the kind of work that you do in media and in entertainment?
It's been amazingly crucial in terms of just being able to get things done, being able to move and navigate the industry. Like you said, the number of people that are in your phone that you can call on speed dial will amaze you and see how many doors you're probably I always say I'm one or two people away from the person I need to talk to.
So
you know what I mean? So if I need to invite someone from Nigeria, I know it's 2 phone calls away and I will get a big somebody in Nigeria on the phone. So it's been really crucial having that social capital, the people that can open doors and that network. Yeah.
So good. And I know you've been using a lot of your social capital as well to just get around and just spread the message about the creative economy and learn as well, so that you can come and teach us. Tell us about your recent experience. I know you've just come back from the UK. Tell us about what happened there.
Absolutely. So that's another great example of that social capital in terms of, the connections that I've made in London throughout the program that you just talked about, Music Connects. A good friend of mine who's also a collaborating partner, his name is Nathan from Radio Represent, managed to organize a series of meetings with the people at Sony Music in London. And I got to meet the head of promotions, went department by department, meeting different heads, going through how the ecosystem that they have there, and it just opened my mind. And how you see it on TV, you see the success of these people, but you don't see the machinery, the system behind supporting those people that's causing them to have the impact that they have.
So good.
So, and like I said, it was a phone call away to say, hey, who can you connect me with? I want to learn more about the industry. We want to create opportunities for Zimbabwean artists, and he made it happen.
So good.
Yeah.
Talking about that ecosystem, let's bring it back home.
Yeah.
Where are we with our ecosystem in terms of just media, entertainment, music specifically?
We are far behind. And I know it's something that's been said a lot. And And amazingly, we weren't that far behind back, if you look back in the 80s, 70s, when we had, proper systems in place. We had record companies like Grama, in place. And what they used to do for the likes of the Bundu Boys and, the people that eventually got exported like Rosala Miller, Oliver Mtukudzi, Thomas Mofumo and the like, those institutions are no longer there. I mean, if you say, to give me one record company in Zimbabwe, you won't be able to mention one. Yes, we have studios and people, confuse studios to record companies, but when you go to an institution like Sony and you see how it works, like I told you, the lady I met was a head of promotions, and that's her job. And under her, she's got someone who's focused, not just someone, a whole team focused on radio promotions.
Wow.
So they're there working radio stations to pitch their artists to play their music on a daily basis. We don't have an institution like that. So you see how that kind of support for the industry is very crucial. You know what I mean? And if you don't have that, how do we expect our local artists to compete with the Tylers and the Burna Boys? You know what I mean? Without that kind of machinery. So I would say there are a lot of things that we have to relearn and catch up on. We used to have them, but due to various factors, we can't rule out things like, economic situations and that sort of thing. But I think there is a long way to go. But what's exciting is the opportunities that are there for institutions to come in, and the talent that we're having, and the growth in terms of the music, quality, quantity, that sort of thing.
So
it's
good.
there. So we're ripe for that, for those kinds of institutions.
I love that. And I hope K Media is considering to do something in that field, because this is like, an area that really needs work and really needs someone who understands the heart behind it.
Absolutely.
I was at Amakosi Cultural Center over the weekend, and as I was going around, one of the young guys said to me, this used to be the Hollywood of Zimbabwe. And I was like, yeah, of course, it was. And when you look at the kind of people that were churned out from there. And then I said, so what happened? And he says, look around the houses. And I did. And he's like, what do you notice? And I kind of had a blank stare. And he says, look, every house has a satellite dish, which means people have been consuming products from outside of Zimbabwe. So what do you think they're going to like more? So how do you believe media influences cultural identity in today's society? Because I'm seeing that they have a big role to play in terms of showing the people what's there to like, right?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I'll give you a few examples. Starting with myself. I grew up in an era where we had access to television, access to radio. I used to listen to Radio 3, and it was a very urban station. So it shaped how I thought, how I viewed myself, my identity. There was a lot of hip-hop, a lot of Western pop culture music coming through. We watched a lot of Western shows, Santa Barbara, those kinds of shows. Yes, we did have your Mutinimira and whatever, but that was just relegated to 30 minutes or an hour on a Thursday. But the bulk of it was Western media, and it shaped the way I talk, the way I think, the way I dress. And even when I got into music, I started off as a rapper, as a hip-hop artist, because of what I was consuming.
Wow.
And it's only later on when you grow up and you're like, okay, so what's my identity? What makes me unique? What makes me Zimbabwean? And I realized that I haven't consumed enough of Zimbabwean culture because of the media that I was consuming. I actually went back and I started listening to a lot of John Chibadira's music early on, and he had a lot of reggae influence.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It wasn't really indigenous. He then transitioned later on, but in the beginning stages, and it was informed by the media he was consuming.
Exactly.
So it plays a huge role in shaping how we think, our culture, what values we have, and that sort of thing. So I guess that's where the importance of then us now rediscovering our heritage and then creating cultural products that are marketable and they're great, that promotes that cultural heritage and identity.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And again, it's another opportunity for us as creators to create those products. Do you know any examples of some media projects that have successfully shaped public perception?
Yeah, I think there are quite a few actually. I would start internationally, I would say, and this is more in the advertising space. I think Dove's really led the way in changing how we view beauty, and them starting to incorporate different types of models
So good.
in their adverts. You know what I mean? They had women with natural hair,
Yes.
you know, different sizes, the body positivity message. And I think back then we always used to associate beauty with a certain type of body structure or a certain type of person and the way they look and the hair, the makeup and all that. But that sort of shifted, and now we have a lot more people proudly, you know, going natural hair or no makeup or that sort of thing, or plus size models and that sort of thing. So it's got the power to change that sort of perception within the public. Yeah.
Coming back to, you know, the viability of the industry, do you think that creative projects are actually viable without funding? Like, can they actually make money to sustain themselves?
Without funding?
Well, without maybe donor funding, possibly,
Okay.
you know, proper. Can I go to a bank and say, look, this is the creative project I want to do?
No. And it's a fact. It's a fact, because I've tried to do that, running a creative enterprise, and I haven't gotten a loan from a bank successfully. I have applied, but you know, they'll tell you, no, we don't really, and they'll ask you a lot of questions because they don't really understand the industry. So it'll be very difficult to access funding. I don't think it's not impossible. So I wouldn't say completely no.
Yeah.
But it's very, very difficult for you to sustain a creative project without funding support.
Yeah.
You can bootstrap it, and that takes you with your phone and whatever you have, and then posting it online and perhaps going viral. But how many people go viral? 1 in a million.
That's true.
So it's not sustainable. Yeah.
So you have the unique opportunity right now to speak to the stakeholders. What maybe we need to showcase and show, okay, are we bankable? And maybe what are some of the things that you see happening in the creative space that can convince the powers that be that we are actually a bankable, you know, lot?
Yes. A friend of mine used to always say Zimbabwe doesn't have a talent problem, it's got a PR problem.
Wow.
In terms of music and the creative sector. And I think that's really, really crucial in that we don't have the visibility, we don't have the stories, we can't demonstrate the impact and the success stories to sectors like the financial sector and the investment sector and other stakeholders, for them to be like, okay, there's something there, let's put money. You know what I mean? I look at examples like Nigeria, you know, with MTV Base coming. I first heard of a Nigerian urban song on MTV Base, and it was P Square, you know, and they were still doing hip hop at that time. But you see, that gave a platform to showcase what Nigeria had, and from there investment started getting in. That's why we have the Burna Boys now, because there's investment that's gotten in because they demonstrated that they could do it. So it's a big PR push. We need to be able to demonstrate that this is good, people want it, it's viable, it can be commercial, it can make financial sense, because at the end of the day, investors are looking for a return.
That's true.
You know?
That's true.
Yeah.
I love that you said that. You're actually echoing what we had Tino Kambasha on the show last time, and he was saying the same thing. Venture capital can only go to people who demonstrate that they can actually do something sensible with it. I just want to come back to you personally, because you did your degree in you know, the Bachelor of Commerce.
Yes.
Was that for you to actually get into the creative space, or you had other plans in mind? And what then convinced you to get into the creative space?
I always wanted to get into the creative space, but my family would not have it. So I really wanted to be, you know, just in the creative space, you know, music and film and that no. But it's not like they didn't want me to do it. They were like, you know, you can have it as a side thing that you're doing, but you know, you need to have a proper qualification and get a proper job, work in a bank of some sort and that sort of thing. So I was at school, I was naturally good in the commercial subjects, and economics was one of my favorite, because also early on I started seeing where the gaps were in the creative industry and how we needed to employ the business side of things to make things work. So I really, and even in my lectures I always used to figure out, okay, so how does this apply to music, how does this apply to the creative sector, every time I was doing a module or whatever. So that was really my family saying, hey, you need to do something sensible. You can't. I really wanted to go to music production in a university, but I ended up doing economics.
So tell us, you've then decided, okay, I'm getting into the creative space. K-Media started. What was that experience like for you, getting into the field and seeing and noticing what was on the ground, and how did you feel that you could come in and add what you know and what you've learned?
So it came from, during the time I was still learning at university and stuff, I was still pursuing my creative career. Like I said, I was a rapper and a music producer back then. Started off with people like Reverb 7 and Simba Tags as boys, just trying to make it out there, But then I noticed something that, yes, we were making songs, but they were on our laptops or in our friends' cars or whatever. So I was really curious about, okay, how do we make a living out of this? You know what I mean? So that inspired me to kind of, explore the business side and say, okay, maybe we are the ones who need to create the institutions. We need to create the businesses that support other creatives. So that's how, K-Media was born. And it's really a passion to just make the creative sector work in Zimbabwe. Starting with the areas that I'm passionate about, that I have an influence, music, film, animation, that sort of thing. So that's been the journey, and that's been the mission, really, to say, okay, this can work. We can see it in other countries. There are models, there are templates. I went to school. I know how to put together a proposal. I know how to put a business plan, to do financial modeling. I need to apply this and try and make it work. Yeah,
I love that. And I particularly like your program, the Scripts and Bars, which has turned into Music Connects.
Yes.
Tell us more about that, because I've been trying to just hammer this, that look, we need to feed into ecosystems as opposed to just individual little things happening.
Absolutely.
And I feel that this is one such project that is literally feeding into an ecosystem that is representing an industry, right?
Yes.
Tell us more about the Scripts and Bars and Music Connects.
Okay, so this is a very exciting project that we've been running since I think 2022. It's an initiative of the British Council and the Embassy of Switzerland in Zimbabwe. And they pretty much, we had been doing some work with the British Council, and they understood what we were doing in the creative sector, and they said, hey, we've got this project that we want to do, and we want to support creatives and make them economically viable. So they were looking at it across several pillars. So first of all, we know they need capacity. So capacity building, training, skills development, digital skills, because we're in a digital era. Enterprise skills, which is critical. Do they understand the business? How do you make money? Yes, you can sing, you can create this film or whatever it is, but how do you generate revenue from it, from your talents, your skills? And then also they realize that, look, like we're talking about, if you go to the bank, you're most likely not going to get a loan. So grants, financial support, and not just that, it didn't end there. Okay, once we've given you financial support, let's give you access to markets. So essentially what Scripts and Bars is, and now Music Connects Africa program is, it's an accelerator program. If you're familiar with the startup world, there are many like Y Combinator for startups. There are business accelerator programs. So it's very similar to that, where you're pretty much creating an environment that's conducive for someone to thrive. They don't, they're surrounded by support in terms of mentorships, in terms of access to networks. We're talking about our social capital, that sort of thing. So we're helping them build that social capital by putting them in rooms they would never ordinarily be in. You know, getting people that are top industry executives, getting people like yourself to do masterclasses and facilitate workshops and being mentors and that sort of thing, creating that support structure in a time limited sort of time frame where you are giving it 100% and you're surrounded by all this support and you develop and grow at an accelerated pace.
I love that.
So that's what Music Connects Africa is. And I always say we're creating a pathway for success for creatives.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what are you envisioning? Because when you start this, when you've interacted with these young people, with where they are and where they're trying to go, what are you noticing and what are you envisioning from this project?
I'm noticing that Zimbabwe has a lot of talent. And I know a lot of people have said this, but it's
real.
It's real. And I'll give you an example of just in our program. I didn't realize the richness of the talent in Matebeleland.
Oh yes.
Untapped, unknown, just not given a platform. And when you give them a platform, the way they thrive.
So true.
We had a young man that we hadn't heard about at that time called Ryan Synth. And we just, he went through the program and the networks and the things that he started, developing and growing into, to touring internationally now. You know what I mean? Just because of the support and the networks that he got from the program.
So good.
But there are like millions of other Ryan Synths in Matebeleland. We've got another one who's coming up. His name is DJ Hugo, who's just finished the program from Plumtree. We'd never heard of this guy. But now we've given him support. He's just launched a new single. And we've just created doors. And I'm like, where did these people keep coming from? And they're there. So that's something that I've noticed. And now I'm seeing that, look, if we create like what we're saying, and maybe we should be investing more in this, and creating more resources. If we create that institution that can invest in this talent, that can give them access to markets, that can create the infrastructure that can support these people to be able to thrive, that'll be brilliant.
So good, yeah. Since you're talking about these artists that you're working with, and also just looking at the project that you are doing, what are some of the marketing strategies that you think have proven most effective for promoting creative projects, not just at a large scale, but even just me as Taronik?
I think the most effective thing is your marketing. And no matter what media you're using, no matter what platform you're using, has to be rooted in authenticity and cultural relevance. If you're not authentic and if you're not relevant to the audience that you're speaking to, you're not going to resonate. Your music's not going to resonate. Your art is not going to resonate with them. You know what I mean? And those become the foundation of what I believe is the key marketing strategy, which is building a community. A lot of people want to go viral. It's not, it helps, but it's not the key strategy that enables success.
Yes.
It's building a community of people that are loyal, that like your artwork, that will invest in it by buying in it. By buying that artwork, I'm very wary, and I really don't like when people say Zimbabweans don't support us, or Zimbabwe don't support the arts. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what do you mean by support? Because you have to create value for me to buy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Create that value, create a community of people. Don't focus on the large population, but start with your 10. That 10 grows into 20, to 100, to 2,000. You know what I mean? So building that community. And we've got a lot of case studies that, and I'll mention one or two locally. Winky D. You say you tweet something about Winky D, positive or negative, and see what happens. You know what I mean?
He doesn't even need to say.
He doesn't even. He's built that community. And I remember back in the 2007, 2008, you would get into a combi and you would hear Winky D songs. We didn't know who he was, but you'd hear this guy and you're like, who is this guy? I then first watched him perform at the concert at the National Sports Stadium when Akon came. I'm like, oh, that's the guy I've been hearing in the combis. Such a great performer.
Yeah.
And it was that whole community building, people are always in combis.
Yes, he put in the time, he put in the...
Went into the streets and that sort of thing and created that community of those people that support. And then his messaging as well resonated with the audience. Taylor Swift and the Swifties, you know what I mean? It's a community, so it's not just local, internationally. You build that community and you're able, she's able to sell a vinyl for, I don't know, $50 or whatever. We don't really need vinyls in this day and age, but people are buying them because loyalty, and they see the value and they're part of that community.
Nothing beats human interaction. And I was actually watching an interview by Elton John saying the exact same thing, that he remembers that, when he was coming out, his promoter kept saying, no, let's do the small venues, fill out the small venues first. Even when you're getting big, do small venues, because that, there's something about that intimacy, that interaction that prepares you for the bigger stages.
Absolutely.
So thank you for highlighting that. Still talking about, just marketing and getting our products known, how do you think technology has transformed the way that we consume media and entertainment?
Massively.
Yeah.
Massively. Before, it was very difficult to get your word out there.
Exactly.
I remember I did my first single, I think it was in 2000. Rap single, and trying to get word out there was very difficult. It took my brave brother, who went to the local radio station back then, and sat there the whole day with copies, giving every single DJ, until someone played the song on radio. It was such a huge moment in our household. But that was the only avenue. And there's only limited time on radio. You had to print posters or pay ads on TV. Now you can post something on social media and someone in India is going to see it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? For a low budget, you can boost it and promote it and target whatever. So it's totally transformed how you can reach audiences, how you can build communities, with Instagram creating things like the broadcast channels and the groups and that sort of thing. WhatsApp, something as small and as a WhatsApp group can help you create a community. Imagine if you have 250 people that are buying something for $10 from you every month. That's $2,500.
Exactly.
That's a salary of someone in an office. You know what I mean? But we've got all these tools. We can take advantage of them. So it's totally, I would say, how do I say it? Democratized the marketing space and how you reach people because of how we consume media. It's no longer restricted to 7 p.m. on a specific day on TV. I can reach anyone everywhere on their phone.
Exactly. And it cuts out the middleman.
Exactly.
It cuts out the middleman. And you have direct access to your market.
Exactly.
And it's fascinating. So what role do you think partnerships like the one that you have with the British Council and other organizations, how do they play? How do these partnerships influence fostering cultural exchange? I'm looking at your projects with Scripts and Bars and Music Connect. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. I think they're very, very important, these partnerships, because without the British Council, like I said, I went to the UK and managed to do a tour of Sony Music. And that was through the British Council, because they facilitated the relationship that I now have with Radio Represent that opened the door. So them creating those linkages through their partnership for intentional cultural exchange, where they deliberately connect you with institutions like in the UK or other territories, South Africa or whatever, and also then having that interaction with other creatives in other countries. It fosters relationships where you have access to wider audiences, because now I have access to an artist in the UK's audience because I've collaborated with them.
Yes.
And they have access to my audience because I've collaborated with them. So I think they're really crucial because they intentionally create those partnerships and open those doors.
Yeah.
Without them, it will be a lot more difficult to try and just, email a random organization.
That's true.
And say, hey, we want to do this and that sort of thing. But if it's coming from a credible organization that's fostering that relationship, it makes it easier.
You've just reminded me that my first international tour was actually because of the Zimbabwe German Society, and because we used to do our acoustic night there. And I remember even when I toured Senegal, may her soul rest in peace, Ambassador Trudy Stevenson.
Oh yes.
She was such an amazing ambassador because I remember I just sent him an email, said I'm coming to Senegal. They housed me, they took me around in this diplomatic vehicle.
Nice.
And I could attend all these diplomatic events outside of my planned tour. So that was quite something. So yeah, you are right. We need to engage more in these institutions and see how we can bring value to each other. How do you think we can advise or give advice to these cultural institutions on how to better support local creatives? Because sometimes the support is there, but they don't know how to engage.
I think it's understanding the local landscape. So I like, for example, with the British Council, they have taken time to do research, and they have a model where they like to work with local partners. So that's something that I would encourage a lot more of these cultural organizations and development organizations that intend to support the creative sector to look into getting into the market and understanding where it's at, rather than coming with a solution that's already made.
So good.
Importing an international solution because it might not work. It's been done before and they're not really working. So having dialogue and having an inclusive process from conceptualization, which is why I like the Music Connects Africa program, because it wasn't terms of reference that was just slapped down on us. It was, we have this idea, let's co-design this. These are the objectives that we're trying to achieve. What is your insight? You operate in this industry. Let's plan. So we had a lot of planning sessions, tweaking things, giving them feedback. They're listening. We're listening to where they're coming from because they have objectives that they also have to meet. So it's that collaborative aspect. So a lot more collaboration will make it work.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So you're working again with a lot of young talent. And I'm not talking young by age, but just young in talent, right? In the creative space. Besides just capacity building, what else do you think that they need to get them to where they need to be?
I think it's those institutions we're talking about, the record labels, the film distribution companies, the publishing companies, that sort of thing. That's really lacking. So we need that sort of ecosystem in place. And coming back to that other critical issue of funding, I really think we need a bank for creatives, and it's an idea I'm seriously toying around with at the moment. And my team and I have been brainstorming about, okay, how could this actually work? Just entertaining the idea. It's not really a solid idea yet, but just seeing how frustrated we are in terms of the lack of financial support. It's great that we have development organizations that offer grants, but grants only take us so far. I think they're a springboard. They're great. They give us a starting point to have a proof of concept, but you still need more capital to continue to get to a place where it's now sustainable. And I think that's where a financial institution, just like how they support other types of businesses and industries, we don't have one specific. If you look at it in countries where the creative sector thrives, there are banks that fund movies, and that's all they do. They're venture capitals that invest in film and music and that sort of thing. We don't have that. And I think that will be a crucial thing that we need to do.
So good. I mean, last week we couldn't have the show because there was the budget announcement, and I listened in, hoping there was something for us. But alas.
Exactly.
And I get it. Sometimes it's also because people are unaware of the impact that we can have to the greater, economy of the country. So let's talk about the economic impact of the creative sector in Africa, because I think this is a great conversation to have if we want to influence the policymakers, if we want to influence the powers that be, to say, look, let's have a chunk of that as well coming to the creative sector.
I think the reason why there is a change in terms of a positive change in terms of investment in Africa is really down to the creative sector.
Yes.
I believe so, because the attention that cultural products bring to Africa is massive.
It is.
That's how people know that there is Africa and there's this thing and there's this thing. It's either digital creators on social media or it's the music that's coming out there. And that then inspires tourism, and some of these business executives come and experience this culture, and there's something here. Let me bring my money here, that sort of thing. But I don't think enough is being done to exploit that. You know what I mean? The reason you and I know about America and New York is probably because you've heard an artist talk about New York and how good it is, the Big Apple or whatever it is, and now you're curious and you're aware of it, so you want to go visit. Hey, I want to go to New York, I want to go to Paris, that sort of thing, because of the media that you consume. So I think it's that. We may not be, and you're talking about the budget, we may not be the largest contributor to the GDP, but I think we are the biggest catalyst.
Yes.
We are the biggest catalyst for investment, for our goods to be out there, known for the PR, for the visibility of Africa and its opportunities.
Yes.
It's driven by the cultural sector, the creative and cultural sector.
It's true. And when you walk around Victoria Falls, I remember just thinking, this is the creative economy in action.
Exactly.
Where tourism meets arts and culture, and it's just a vibrant space. And I was like, they get it.
Exactly.
Now it's just that model needs to be multiplied and implemented elsewhere. So I love that. What steps can be taken to enhance investment in creative industries? What needs to be done?
It comes back to PR. We need to demonstrate, we need to be loud, we need to shine a spotlight on what's happening in the creative sector and the success stories, no matter how small they are, like you were saying. If an investor can see that, like the small example that I was giving, like if a creative was smart enough to use WhatsApp and have 200 followers that pay him $10 every month, he's earning $2,000 a month. If that can be demonstrated to an investor in a way that is captivating, and we can do that because we are the creative.
We are the creative.
You know what I mean? If we can do that, I think we need a lot of PR, we need a lot of case studies. And I brought the Nigeria example of how they took advantage of the media that became available to them, the MTV bases setting up, the Channel O's and all that. And they got their content out there. And that brought investment. And now we have one of their biggest record labels being bought by a major international record label. Maven Records recently got sold because now they're seeing the value of the Nigerian music industry. They're putting money there.
Yes.
I mean, in total, the World Music Report said Africa generated 100 million in terms of music revenue, in terms of streams, in terms of recorded music revenue on Spotify and all these other platforms. 100 million. Wow. You know what I mean? So there's 100 million being generated every year in Africa, and it's growing, and it's the fastest growing. We had I think the fastest growing on any continent in terms of music revenue. I think it was about 24%. So if those statistics can be amplified, then we'll get more investment, because now an investor is looking, okay, there's 100 million up for grabs, I can get a share of the pie, you know. And an interesting conversation that I keep repeating is that a lot of people don't know that Zimbabwe generated 13 million from music streaming.
Wow.
13 million in 2024.
Really?
13 million.
So of that 13 million,
Yes.
does the money actually go down to the artist, or is it simply institutions and
So that's the catch. Now,
Yeah.
that 13 million is revenue that's generated in Zimbabwe. So Zimbabweans paying for these streaming services. Zimbabwean advertisers paying for ads on YouTube, where people mostly stream these kind of things.
But are they streaming Zimbabwean content?
So the thing is, what's our share of that 13 million?
Okay.
And that's what we need to increase. You know what I mean?
Okay.
If we look at Zimbabwean playlists, what I mean is that the playlists that Zimbabweans have on their phone,
Yes,
how much of that is local music?
I get you.
We need to increase that share, because if we increase that share, we have more of that 13 million, which is growing, by the way.
Yes. So in other words,
Yeah.
Zimbabweans do have the capacity to sow into the arts.
Yes.
But we just need to now make sure that we capture that
Consume.
market and
Yeah.
consume that. I get
Yes.
that. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. So with all this information, my dear friend Keith, what is the future for K-Media, and how are you coming up with solutions that can speak to these challenges that we're having?
So running the Music Connects Africa has been a great blessing, because we have these insights.
Yeah.
We've worked with creatives on the ground. We do research. We know how much they're earning. We know what the potential is, where the gaps are, and what the solutions are.
Yeah.
So we are now trying to see, how do we position ourselves to be able to best support these creatives? What resources, what relationships, what partnerships can we start establishing? I'm excited it's very early on in the conversations, but we had very good meetings just in the last couple of weeks with some big corporates that are starting to understand, and like it comes back to what I was saying, the PR.
Yeah.
We've been able to demonstrate through impact stories the impact that the music program has had on these people. So they're starting to appreciate, they're starting to see it, and they're now on the table. Now we're having conversations to say, okay, this is where you can come in. These are the gaps. We're not there yet, it's very early, but we have them on the table, and we're having these conversations. So trying to get those partners and trying to garner more resources to take advantage of the opportunities that are there is the mission right now. It's very challenging. It can be very tiring, but we're very passionate about it, because we can see where it can go. And there are case studies. Look at South Africa, look at Nigeria, look at Kenya, and where they are now. Burna Boy is coming to fill concerts here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're starting to see it. I mean, look, Ja Praiser had a similar attendance, you know what I mean, when he launched his album.
Yes.
So it's there, it's possible.
Yeah.
We just need a lot more Ja Praisers.
Well, I think you're the right man for the job, for the record. So I do wish you the best of luck.
Yeah.
And we're proud of everything that you're doing, and just the support that you're giving to the creatives. Much needed. I wish you were there when I started, guys. Yes? Music Connects.
But we started because of people like you.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, you
that's
guys
true.
were pioneers with the acoustic nights, wildfire events.
Oh, yes.
You guys created.
Gosh.
There would be no Prayer Soul if there would be no Tari on the guitar
true.
without wildfire events. So you guys created a platform. You know what I mean? I'm also coming back to that other. I think one of the earlier questions where you were talking about cultural influence. A very good friend of mine, Tatenda Janami, and the Chamembe movement.
I went to school
Look
with
at
Janami.
exactly. Look at what that unlocked.
Yes.
And that wasn't him on a big budget. That was him in his bedroom.
That's so true.
You know what I mean?
That's so true.
And the influence and the impact that had on the Zimbabwe music industry was phenomenal.
Crazy. And they showed us that it's possible.
It's possible.
They showed us
with
that
the
it's
little
possible.
that they had.
Yeah. So big shout out to you, Teta Janami and crew. You guys are amazing. Keith, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Unusual. And I hope you had. Where do people find you? On
all social platforms. If you're looking for my X and Instagram, I'm Mr. Kent Zim. Don't ask me where that came from.
About to say, Mr. Kent. Oh, is it that influence that we're talking about?
Exactly, that's where it comes from. But Keith Kuhudzai on Facebook, LinkedIn,
nice,
and the like. Yeah,
it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Do tune in next week. We'll be back and talking about more creative economy issues and just how we can grow this space and get everyone to support what we're doing. So thank you so much for having us. My name is Tarirone Gitare and I'm signing out.
Business Unusual, separating economic facts from fiction.